Hey, if you'd like to earn CEUs for this webinar, join the Safeopedia community at the link in the description below. Now, on to the show.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that very much. Good morning, afternoon, or evening in Bangladesh, depending on where you're connecting from, and welcome to Safety Connect. Today, I want to look at some of the human or people skills safety professionals require. And while our time here is limited, we can always stay connected through safety. Hey, Safety Connect. Let's jump in. Bill Gates. Bill Gates. As we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. Bill Gates is one of the global personalities and a future forward thinker of our generation. This quote couldn't be more representative of my message. Leaders inspire humanity, kindness, family and community, health and safety. Let's briefly unpack management and leadership. Another quote, and you're going to get lots of them at Safety Connect. Another quote, this time from Peter Drucker, who says the difference between a manager and a leader is that a manager focuses on doing things right, while a leader focuses on doing the right things. Unpacked, managers have employees, leaders have followers. In a bit more depth, this shows us the manager administers and maintains with a focus on systems and structure, whereas a leader innovates and develops, focused on the people. Where the manager relies on control, the leader inspires trust. For health and safety leaders, this can be a departure from traditional methodology. Our leaders ask what and why, with sights on the horizon. The manager supports, asking how and when, with sights on the bottom line. They're synchronous in that both sets of skills are needed to run a successful organization. Each organization learns to find balance between the two, which fits the culture and goals of that organization. Consider, a leader cannot inspire a team to attain a goal if they are not concerned about how it will be accomplished. It is in the how where successful teams emerge. Intersecting confidence with conscious competence, and that's a mouthful. It occurs when we talk about human factors, when inspiration comes from truthful honesty felt by those receiving the message. Being our authentic selves drives inspiration, and inspiration likes to be shared. So what contributes to confident, conscious competence? Well, health and safety skills. These are the ability to perform tasks, and they will depend on a number of factors, specialization or field of interest, what your level of responsibility is, and your access to education and mentorship. I got to get used to scrolling these, running my own presentations here. We talked about skills, your ability, higher levels of responsibility and accountability. The dependency here is on experience and the available opportunities, your aptitude for learning, and your desire to move up within an organization. It's all about you. And actually putting time in the trenches. Jim Rohn reminds us that in order to be successful, we are going to have to do things we don't like to do. These build character and endure us to those we work with and for. Understanding. We need to understand. These are those building blocks for understanding risk in an organization. Corey talks about risk. Time is required to acquire understanding using your senses and more importantly, your curiosity to absorb clues and key messages, paying attention to what is happening both inside and outside our sphere of responsibility. Caring about what happens to workers is important. Caring about the impact worker well-being has on the reputation of the organization takes it to the next level. Then cognizant vulnerability. Couple of big words. Presenting ourselves as one of the collective. Sharing our shortcomings and how we overcame them, it's a powerful thing, and it can be very frightening. As humans, we're programmed for negativity and conditioned for humility when we make a mistake. True dat. Managing health and safety in the workplace has a direct impact on the lives of the families in your community. And I firmly believe it is by sharing our successes that we can reduce injuries and therefore reduce the social impact in our neighborhood and our communities. The intersection here applies to the amount of time in the profession, our confidence in our skill set, and our ability to identify or create opportunities to ascend that corporate ladder. Community and workplaces intersect when needs are met and work-life balance is achieved. So let's unpack those skills. Looking at skills, defining our skill sets, technical versus soft skills, human resources versus humanitarian, skills, and more skills. I thought about having skills all over the place. Doing the job of safety work. This is being able to complete formal hazard assessments, assessing risk within the organization as it relates to worker tasks and HMI or human-machine interface. Understanding the multiple disciplines required to identify, analyze, and control risk factors in the workplace. Safety's everywhere. Some would dare to say transcending industry. Managing the emergency response after identifying or assessing threats and providing liaison with neighboring businesses, more skills. Include continuity principles and processes. What if? Involving the community where the workers live and work is a way to ensure that the risks are known and mitigation plans are communicated. This is crucial for reputational risk. Consider a gas a refinery, and it's next door to a large community. Those risks need to be communicated in order for reputational risk to be positive. Developing safety programs within the management system, for example, noise conservation, waste management, radiation safety, ergonomics. These are all those specialization skills and program development within there. Providing non-certificate training, teaching workers how to do inspections properly, how to be committee members effectively, how to assess field level or worksite hazards with integrity every time, and using our communication skills to communicate. Practice what you preach. This is leadership. This is leadership from the top down. Practice what you preach. Demonstrate health and safety behaviors, uphold compliance, and reserve judgment or opinion. Always seek to understand, not to blame. And the hard part, be genuine in your approach. And this leads us into the psychosocial piece. Protecting the organization's assets, specifically human capital. And Kathy Seabrook yesterday in her closing keynote talked a little bit more about human capital. We can do this by identifying occupational and lifestyle risk factors which affect worker well-being. It can be difficult to speak to an employee who has a history of injury or lack of compliance. My personal experience is an approach from a place of caring is preferred over one of legislative or corporate concern, and I've tried it all the way around. It depends on who you're talking to. Worker well-being extends beyond the workplace, and this is gray area. It definitely takes experience to learn how to approach some employees, but I can tell you that the successes are worth it. I do, however, recommend you spend time acquiring these skills prior to engaging difficult employees, because changes to a worker's lifestyle choices are a really hard sell. Some of the occupational risks are systemic and can be attributed to a management style or a lack of policy or inconsistent application of policy. Most of my experiences in this field are related to managers and supervisors who treat employees differently, most often in different departments. For example, one supervisor extends a courtesy to employers and another supervisor doesn't extend that same courtesy. Could be as simple as, it's okay if you're 5 minutes late, or, you know what, every Friday we have donuts in this department. The inconsistency will cause a rift in the culture, and it will manifest in an overall feeling that the employees are not valued or not valued in the same way. Another example could be task allocation. Giving a reasonable time frame which would allow workers to complete tasks during normal working hours, and further, conducting performance reviews for worker growth. There's a list of these. For the sake of brevity, we list just the more obvious here. There are 13 psychosocial factors that you can find in the Canadian standard, and there's a number of people in here that deal in psychological health and safety. The psychosocial risks manifest in physical ailments, chronic conditions, and presenteeism, absenteeism. Each of these result in elevated costs to your organization and to the community. Health and safety leaders must promote positive leadership where a culture of open communication fosters a feedback loop, involving the workers' suggestions and ideas where rewards are equitable and workers feel empowered to provide input into their health and safety. This is where workers can be themselves and contribute their ideas and suggestions without fear of reprisal. So next, we're going to look at cognizant vulnerability. It sounds like a mouthful, but it's really not that bad. Change is difficult. And when you start to put people at the forefront, it can be disarming for some, or it can be a cause for celebration and an uncomfortable intrusion for others. Knowing when to change is almost as important as knowing what to change. Being confident in the why will assist with the when and how for change implementation. We don't have time for these insights today. Much of this is learned through project management experience. And if we want to carry on some of this stuff, I can talk to you at the end, and my email address is there. As a safety advocate, understanding your skills, integrating ESG principles, that's environmental, social, and governance principles, risk management, and techniques for safety differently demonstrates to the organization an increased and visible level of confidence in your abilities. You are better able to display your human side when you come from a place of realism. Seek to understand how others understand, because it's not the same. Change invokes fear and frustration, curiosity and excitement, and it's okay for you to display your emotions. My lessons taught me to respond and not react. It also demonstrates that you know yourself, how to calm yourself, and to remain thoughtful and present in the situation. Vulnerability also indicates you understand the impact the issue has on the organization and the community as a whole. Within the ESG world, we are beginning to include human capital. Yes, people. Sustainability now looks at the worker. Well-being goes deeper than DEI. It takes on social responsibility. Impacts to the social system after an injury, and for employers, it also takes on ethical purchasing. Something my colleague Kathy Seabrook touched on yesterday at the closing keynote. All of these are emerging fields of responsibility. Understanding the risks faced by the organization requires a deeper knowledge and insight into the goals of the organization. Recognizing the power of people. Consider safety as a human factor. In order to safety differently, recognize three key areas: how safety is defined within the organization, the role of the people within the organization, and the focus of the business. Putting people first. Recognize workers as investors in the organization and treat them accordingly. Measure what goes right instead of what goes wrong. Leading versus lagging. We've all taken this. Study conditions, not behavior, as behavior is often predicated by working conditions, and by involving the worker in the decision-making process, recognizes people are a solution to a problem, and changing the conditions will change behavior. Understanding how workers bring success allows us to harness the power in their skills and competence, and it lets us communicate with the C-suite as to the power of the workforce. I'm reminded of a quote by Alexander Pope. I'm going back to 1711. And it was in a message to the U.S. Institute of Medicine regarding patient safety, where he said, "To err is human, to forgive divine." This suggests we should integrate a health and safety management system tolerant of error. I know Corey said, I am not telling you anything that other great safety pioneers haven't been preaching for decades, but this is why we produce cars that withstand crashes. For me, it's about a shift appropriate to the organization, where we move away from managing control to managing risk. For example, don't ask why the train didn't stop at the red light. Ask instead why the red light didn't stop the train. This, to me, is where emotional intelligence meets cognizant vulnerability internally. In a tech world, expectations are more about being able to find a solution than having a portfolio of solutions. We are experiencing an unprecedented rise in tech growth, software solutions to reduce paper consumption and administration time, tech to capture and compare data to aid decision-making and reduce expenditures, and PPE improvements, which include exoskeletons to reduce the wear and tear on the human body. No one person, no one professional can be expected to have all these solutions at hand. Now we are revering the individuals that are able to demonstrate that they may not have an immediate solution, but rather that they have the means and network to find an appropriate systemic solution that can drive internal improvements to unique organizational issues. Consider how not embracing or implementing tech solutions and human factors into the organization, your organization, may impact the future of the organization. This is a critical thinking ability, valuable at each level of responsibility throughout your career. This is how we demonstrate we understand our individual vulnerability and how it translates into corporate vulnerability. You'll need to discuss both in order to achieve professional competence. It's different than a tech skill, and a deeper dive at a later date. I really do wish I had more time to get into this. My inspiration, my inspo. Inspiration comes from unlikely sources. For those of you who enjoy stories, movies, and sci-fi, I present part of my inspiration. If you're familiar with Marvel Comics, you may recognize these two characters. Not typical heroes. However, I found them to be deeply inspirational, and I've watched these on several intercontinental flights over and over and over again. Guardians of the Galaxy. Ain't nothing like me, except me. Rocket is a genetically engineered life form. They never knew they started life as a raccoon, yet they endure stereotyping due to resemblance to that creature. Never learning what a raccoon is underscores the mindless need of some to put down others in order to elevate their own self-worth. However, with Rocket, my inspiration comes from the character's ability to remain themselves, despite a perception to the contrary. Not often politically correct, again, the character responds to situations consistently in the same manner. Defying the principles of confirmation, they steadfastly present themselves as loyal to the cause and to the team, with a disregard for those who choose to inflict harm on the constituents of the galaxy. Very much about what is right is right. Their defense of those who may be marginalized or uninformed is inspirational, and I admire they do this without conforming to societal rules, albeit with amazing cinematography at the hands of Marvel. They are quite violent at times, balancing rage with tenderness. Groot is 100% deadly and 100% sweet, with an innocence of perpetual childhood. The character is inspirational in how it serves a true friend, shields and a protector of the Guardians team, again by being their self. After all, this is a perpetual tree whose being mimics the infamous rise of the phoenix. We use characters to explain and enhance, garner acceptance and tolerance, and to remove the individuality of specificity. In other words, our struggles are very similar, although our circumstances are unique. Ponder, if you will, the term IDIC. Infinite diversity in infinite combinations. What does this statement mean to you? Regardless of its origin, its connotation, or intended purpose, there is for me a truth deeply embedded. It provides me with inspiration to be a health and safety leader, to empower other leaders to perpetuate health and safety beyond the confines of the organization or their geographical location. It helps me understand why I relate to people, all people. It explains my authenticity, my servant nature, and the passion I have to empower others. How apropos that the word today is passion. Thanks, Jamie. Not all of my inspiration comes from sci-fi. I have found valuable lessons from people like Maya Angelou, Nelson Mandela, the Dalai Lama, Princess Diana, God rest her soul, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give credit to all the workers with whom I've had the pleasure of interviewing and their leaders who have graciously shared their successes and failures. For your inspiration, pay attention to how things make you feel, and then develop your inspiration and use it to inspire others. As I said, inspiration loves company. Speaking of Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, we are truly rooted in the past. And it's common, most of us have heard, that we do not learn from those that went before us, at least when we describe atrocities and lack of progress. I look to the philosophical history to find the concepts we employ for building relationships, both with ourselves and with others. So who's Aristotle? Well, Socrates was the teacher of Plato, and Plato the teacher of Aristotle. These are famous names I hope you recognize from about 400 years BC, and that's before Christ, not before COVID. Aristotle coined the phrase, "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts." There are arguments in this age of inclusion and diversity, but that is another discussion again for another time. Much in a way that a car parked in the driveway with fuel and insurance is more valuable than a box containing all the parts to build a car in the garage. You are more valuable after you have attained awareness, skills, experience, and confidence. Note that these are difficult to put into a box or quantify, as each person has a unique perspective. And we are, by virtue of being human, myopic to a fault. Rodin. Rodin was a sculptor born in 1840 who depicted deep introspection with his The Thinker piece, shown on your screen. Why is this important? Beyond Aristotle's philosophy, we become greater when we apply our character, our conscious awareness of how we are different than others, and unique in our perspective and approach. Confidence means having a level of comfort in what you know and what you don't know, and being able to demonstrate the unknown is a strength. Knowing the basics and having the ability to accurately diagnose the systemic issue or root cause is far more valuable to finding an effective and efficient solution to a problem, and is a highly sought after characteristic in health and safety professionals. Consciousness means recognizing your strength and working with them. Surrounding yourself or being on a team with others whose strengths are different from our own make a powerful organization. Weakness isn't weakness anymore. Conscious confidence identifies opportunities within weakness by simply saying, "I'm uncertain. I see the issue as this, and possible solutions could include these factors." The intersection of confidence with consciousness and competence begins with introspection. Being true to yourself, understand why you feel that knot in the pit of your stomach, or why you twitch whenever a certain task is performed, should cause you to seek understanding. How you approach a solution should showcase your personality. Again, be true to yourself. Use humor when you can, be assertive when necessary. Influence is best delivered when you walk amongst those you serve. It allows you to bring your best whole self, accepting of others. Your authentic self. Believe in you. You cannot dissuade belief. Believe you are competent. Believe you have confidence. Your belief in yourself won't let you down. Let it guide you to achieve greatness, and let it guide you to authenticity. And resiliency? Well, resiliency lies in the belief that by being your best self every day is how to evolve and grow, even in an environment without light and warmth. Just ask a mushroom. It lies in believing you have confidence from conscious competence. It lies in the community that raises the child generation after generation. And I made it in half an hour. Your time today is a precious gift to me. Thank you all for investing in yourself, the health and safety of those in your organization, and in your communities. We are truly stronger together when we work towards a common goal of advancing global health and safety. And I wish you all the greatest successes that a life of health and safety leadership can provide. And above all, good luck with the wheel.